What's something about friendships that took you forever to learn?
Hi guys, so I wanted to do a girl talk video in response to the TikTok video that I showed in the beginning, basically on key lessons that I have learned from friendships, female friendships, all that type of stuff, and basically things about friendship that honestly took me forever to learn. So I would say one of the number one things that I've learned about friendships, specifically female friendships, is that girls who do not value female friendships will never be a good friend to you. And by value, I mean girls who literally see their female friends as placeholders until they get a boyfriend, and then when they get a boyfriend you never hear from them again until they're single. Because girls like that who just don't really see any value in having female friends can never be a good friend to you, because they literally don't see female friendships as a necessity in their life. It's kind of like an option, like if I'm single, I'll have female friends, but if I'm in a relationship, I don't need any female friends. Just girls who have that mindset, I've come to learn, can never really be a good friend to you, especially if you're a girl who really values female friendship. It just doesn't work. Okay, so the next thing, and one of the most important things I've learned, is that friends who use you as a therapist are not your actual friends. And by therapist, I mean just like a one-sided friendship where they're always the one who's emotionally unpacking and you're the one who's like playing problem solver or playing therapist or life coach. Like every single conversation is literally a therapy session, and you guys like don't really talk about anything else but her problem. Being the therapist friend can be so emotionally exhausting, because I feel like people who see their friends as therapists don't recognize that those friends also have things that they're dealing with and they have problems also, but they don't recognize that. They think that they're the only ones with problems. I just remember this year of my life where I was a therapist for so many of my friends and I was just so emotionally exhausted. I'm not saying that being there for your friends and supporting them is bad, but like when the conversations are always just so heavily one-sided and it's always about her and like what's going on in her life, it just becomes so emotionally draining. And basically how I've kind of dealt with friends like this is by not overextending myself all the time for people who can't do the same for me. Like reciprocity is so important in friendships, and honestly having a firm boundary of not overextending myself for people who can't show me the same energy or show up for me the way that I show up for them has honestly made my life so much more calmer and simpler. And I'm at the point now where it's like I don't feel emotionally exhausted or drained anymore from any of my friendships, because all of them are reciprocal and we both put in energy and we both initiate. It's very two-sided. Okay, so the next thing that I've learned is that there's a difference between being friendly with people and being friends with people, and you don't need to be friends with everyone. So I feel like someone that you're friendly with is kind of like those high and by friendships that like, you know, like when you see them, but you guys never really make an effort to see each other. Like if you run into each other at a party or at the mall or somewhere, you can have like a lighthearted discussion, but the friendship never really goes beyond that. Then I feel like a friend is someone who like both of you put in effort to sustain the friendship, and like you hang out, you make plans, you FaceTime, you phone call, all of those things consistently. I think that's friendship. And I think that most of us were friendly with a bunch of people, but we're not necessarily friends with a bunch of people. And personally, a big reason why I don't think you need to be friends with everyone is because when I used to have that mentality of like, oh, I need to be friends with everyone, so I entertained one-sided friendships. I had a lot of those in my life just because I kind of felt compelled to keep people in my life because I thought I should be friends with everyone. But honestly, learning this lesson has been so freeing, because I no longer feel that obligated to keep people in my life that don't bring any positive value to it. So yeah, I think that you should be friendly with everyone, but you don't necessarily need to be friends with everyone. And there's a difference between being friendly and friends. Okay, so the next one is that big friend groups look so much better on the outside than they actually are in the inside, in my own experience. Like throughout grade school, I've been in several like girl friend groups, big friend groups, and I've never really enjoyed being in a friend group, because personally I always feel like the odd one out, or I feel as though sometimes they feel like an echo chamber. Like you have to agree with the main person in the group. You have to agree with her opinion, and if you don't agree with her, you're like shunned out of the group. And if there's ever drama, you're kind of inevitably drawn into the drama or gossip. And yeah, I've just come to the realization that I really appreciate having solid individual friendships with a bunch of different people rather than being in a friend group with people that you're not even that close to. Personally, I don't think I'll ever be in a big girlfriend group ever again, just from my own experiences. I love like trios, like friend groups of 3 people. Those work really well for me. But then when it gets to more than 3 people, like 7, 8, 9 people, it's just too much personally. I think that having like 2 to 4 really solid, trustworthy, reliable girlfriends is way more fulfilling than being in like a big group with people that you're not even that close to. Okay, so the next thing that I've learned about friendships is that I think that there are so many similarities between your friendships and your relationships. For example, like if you're a pushover with your friends, you'll likely be a pushover in your relationship. Or if you don't stand up for yourself in your friendships, you likely won't in your romantic relationships. Or if you overextend yourself or have no boundaries in your friendships, you'll likely be the same in your romantic relationships. And I just think that there are so many similarities and patterns between your platonic relationships and your romantic relationships, which is why it's so important, I think, to have like healthy friendships, because then you can better recognize unhealthy like behavior in a romantic relationship. Because if unhealthy behavior is common in your friendships, when it happens in your romantic relationship, it'll seem normal to you because that type of behavior is just common in your everyday life and like your everyday experiences with people. Okay, so the next thing I've learned is that in your friendships, you are allowed to have standards and boundaries regarding behavior that you don't want to deal with or tolerate in your friendships. And this like took me forever to learn, because we hear all the time to have boundaries and standards in our romantic relationships, but we never really hear about having them in your friendships. Like one standard that I have that I think is very important to have in friendships, in long-term friendships, is reciprocity. Like both people need to initiate and both people need to put in effort. It can't just be one-sided. And now that I have this standard, I just lose interest in friendships where I'm always the one initiating and I'm the one sustaining the friendship. Like I'm at the point now where if I'm always doing it, I'm just not interested anymore. I am overextending myself. And boundaries are also so important because people treat you how you let them. And if you don't have the ability to stand up for yourself and say, you know what, like actually I don't like that, or actually can you not do that, then people will treat you however they like. Okay, so the next thing I learned, and I think for girls, especially young girls, like this is such an important lesson to know, but it's that your friends should make you, like you should feel good around your friends. You should feel excited to hang around your friends. Your friends should not be mean to you. Like your friends shouldn't have mean girl energy, like that middle school, high school mean girl energy. Your friends shouldn't have that. And honestly, it's kind of crazy how good you start to feel when you stop being friends with people like that. I remember last year during quarantine, I remember thinking like how much better I felt like internally now that I wasn't hanging around certain people. It's crazy thinking about what you tolerated from certain friends once you stop being their friend. Once the friendship is over and you're kind of like pondering about what happened in the friendship, it can be crazy thinking about what you tolerated and what you let slide from other people. This is a no-brainer, but I think that friends who randomly give you updates about people from your past or embarrassing things that you did in the past that you no longer talk about or that you have made clear that you've gotten over, I think that friends who give you updates like that are very insincere. Because if I have moved on from a situation and I no longer talk about the situation and I've honestly forgotten who you're even talking about, like why are you bringing it up? It just comes across as so disingenuous, because honestly, is there ever a sincere reason to bring up a person or a situation from your friend's past that you know that they've moved on from and that they don't ever talk about? I don't know, it just really rubs me the wrong way when friends give you random updates that you didn't ask for. It would be different if I wanted you, like, hey, like, can you help me keep tabs on this person or whatever? But if I didn't ask, like, why are you giving me updates? Another big thing that I have learned from friendships is that it is really, really difficult to be friends with people who are always the victim and who don't believe in accountability. Like people who have no ability or see no value in being introspective and reflective and recognizing or even like trying to think about how did my own actions contribute to my current situation that I'm complaining about. People who can't do that and who would rather just point fingers at the outside world, and it's like them against the world, everyone's out to get them, everyone's attacking them. People who just have that victim complex are so hard to be friends with, because they think that accountability is mean. Like, they think that you asking them or you pointing out the obvious and you kind of pointing out like, hey, actually your actions are kind of contributing to this problem that you're complaining about. They find it offensive when you say that. And like, I totally understand, like, it's not good to victim shame, and there are definitely situations in this world where you truly are the victim and what happened wasn't fair. But then also there are a lot of situations where it's like, you're not always the victim. Sometimes we are the toxic ones. Sometimes it is our own actions that are actually contributing to this problem. And honestly, like, if you have an inability to recognize that in yourself, how can you ever grow? Like, how can you ever change? How can situations that you're complaining about ever change if it's always the outside world that's the problem and not you? Like, I just don't understand that mindset personally, because I think it's so important to ask yourself, obviously this doesn't apply to every situation, but I think it does apply to a lot. Asking yourself, how did my own actions contribute to my current reality or like my current problem? Like, that is such an important question to be able to ask yourself and to honestly answer and to take accountability. It's just really hard to be friends with people with that victim mindset who think it's legitimately the world against them. For example, if you're constantly complaining about your toxic relationship that you're not, so like you're complaining about a partner that you're not married to, therefore you're in this relationship by choice and you've been in this relationship for a significant amount of time and it's toxic, I think that it kind of has to get to the point where you need to ask yourself, if this relationship is so unhealthy, why am I staying in it? Or how are my own actions contributing to the dynamic between my partner and I? Or what is it that I'm gaining from this relationship that is making me stay? Basically, how are my own actions or my own feelings or my own insecurities or whatever it is allowing me to stay in a situation that I believe and I'm telling everyone that it's toxic? Because healthy people are not in toxic relationships. This is my second last lesson, but I truly believe that when you work on becoming the best version of yourself and when you actively work on taking care of yourself, you attract better friends, because healthy people like to be around other healthy people. And I noticed that once I started to be introspective and once I started to ask myself, how do my own actions contribute to problems that I'm complaining about? And just being accountable and being more intentional with my life. Like, when I started trying to be healthier mentally, the caliber of girls that I was then like attracting and becoming friends with just increased. And honestly, there's such a difference between the type of people that you become surrounded with and that you become friends with when you're actually doing productive, healthy things rather than just like dumb things. When you prioritize taking care of yourself and you prioritize your health, you naturally kind of distance yourself from people who don't really believe that or people who don't really prioritize that. When I actually started putting an effort into taking care of myself and being more intentional about my life, I noticed that I was beginning to attract so many other good, healthy, solid friends into my life. And I noticed it was like a ripple effect, because healthy people like to be around other healthy people. People who are intentional about their life like to be around other people who are intentional about their life. People who believe in raising your level of self-awareness and being introspective and being able to hold yourself accountable want to be around other people who also believe that. Like, if you want better friends in your life, then you need to first be a good friend to yourself, and that starts with being introspective, being accountable, and being intentional. Okay, so the last lesson I learned, and I think that this is a lesson I'm going to take for the rest of my life, is having just a couple of good quality and solid friendships is way more fulfilling and peaceful than having a bunch of people that you're friendly with but not really truly friends with. Your friends have so much impact on your self-esteem, your confidence, the way you see yourself, the things that you choose to do with your life, the type of romantic partners you choose to entertain or tolerate in your life. Like, your friends have such an impact and influence on that, and sometimes you don't even realize it until you stop being friends with someone and you kind of notice like, oh, like I'm starting to feel better about myself now that so and so isn't in my life anymore. But honestly, when you have really reliable, sincere, trustworthy friends around you, you kind of notice like, oh, I feel better about myself, or like my confidence feels better now that I'm around so and so, or like now that I'm around these people, I feel way more capable, I feel less insecure. You know, surround yourself with good people, peaceful people, inspiring people, kind people, sincere people, and watch your life get a million times better. That is the end of this girl talk. If you're still watching this, comment below what you've learned about friendships that took you forever to learn. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye.